City of Stevens Point Redevelopment Authority meeting, recorded November 14, 2023.
3 p.m. I will, November 14th, I'll call the Redevelopment Authority to order. The director will take the roll.
Schleiss.
Here.
Gardner.
Here.
Kneebone.
Here.
Cooper.
Here.
Kemeter.
Here.
Laddick.
He's present there.
Dave is here. He's just got to unmute himself. And then Barrett.
Here.
Perfect.
All righty, we have a quorum. Item number 1, approval of minutes from the June 20th, 2023 Redevelopment Authority meeting.
Move approval.
We have a motion. Second. Second by Jim. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item number 2, approval of financial reports from Housing Trust Fund, May 2023, June 2023, July 2023, August 2023, September 2023. We must not have met for a while.
It's been a hot minute.
Director, any comments on that?
Nothing substantial to report regarding the Housing Trust Fund balances, so would recommend approval as presented.
Do I have a motion? Gene?
I move we approve the financial reports from the Housing Trust Fund, May 2023, June 2023, July 2023, August 2023, September 2023.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Now that I got through it all.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Nays? Motion carries. Item number 3, request from Cody Williams and Yosel Cardenas. All right, I got close anyhow. For an exemption to the Neighborhood Helping Neighbor Grant Program for the property at 733 Buchwald Avenue. Director.
Thank you, Chair. So before you today is a request from Cody Williams and Yosel Carnitas for an exemption to the Neighbor Helping Neighbor Grant Program for the property at 733 Buchwald Avenue. Essentially, the applicant is requesting for a retroactive approval of the program. They have invested significant funds in the subject property and didn't take advantage of the program when the exterior was resided and several new windows were installed. As part of it. They have run into some challenges finishing the project on the interior. I believe there's a bathroom that has been gutted, but because of financial means, they haven't been able to finish that and move into the property. And so they are asking for a retroactive Neighbor Helping Neighbor grant acceptance. Originally, when this was brought to me as the executive director of this body, I denied the application, but did advise Mark Cordes, who was working with the applicant, that they could appeal my decision to the Redevelopment Authority. I have some concerns about us retroactively allowing this program, and that if we are going to accept this specific request, that we need to be fair and equitable, and anyone who comes before the Redevelopment Authority as it relates to retroactively approving Neighbor Helping Neighbor grant programs, and that if you were to do this, I would recommend directing staff to lay out very clear and objective requirements for retroactively allowing this specific program. There is money remaining in the fund, the Neighbor Helping Neighbor grant program itself, and so the financial means on the Redevelopment Authority's end is not of a concern of mine. It's just the standard that we would be setting if we were to do something like this. The applicant is here. They did submit a written testimony. You also received via email a written testimony from Laura Broderick, who is the new alder for the 4th District in which this property is located. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you folks might have. However, I would turn it over to the applicant to, I guess, make their case and go from there.
Okay, would you like to make a statement, or, and if you would go up to the podium, please.
You have to excuse me, it's the first time I've ever done this.
Your name, please.
My name is Cody Williams. I'm originally from Texas, South Texas. Came up here for the migrant work and decided to put my family up here. So after being up here for a while, we purchased a home back in September. It turned out that the house that we had purchased had some underlying problems that we were unaware of. So along with work and taking care along with my girlfriend, our 3 kids, I've been trying to get this house to where we can move into it. Our first problem that we ran into was a lead-based paint issue. From my understanding, I was told that the house is one of the oldest houses on that block. So the lead-based paint and the amount that was in there, we had, I have a 3-year-old and she was younger at the time. They advised us that it wasn't safe for us to move in right off the bat, but to address that. So I started looking into grants and loans and stuff like that. So we ended up having another mortgage worked out on the house in order to remove all the lead-based paint, some of the siding. The house was in really bad condition. It turned out to be a little more, and they pretty much capped out on the amount that the mortgage would allow me to use on the house. So basically the house was completely turned 180, but the bathroom was our last piece to getting it done. So I looked into other resources. Had I not known the specifics of this grant program or the Neighborhood Helping Neighborhood, which I think is a really great program, I would have probably pursued it before a lot of the other things that we had pursued. When we first got the house, one of the things the house didn't have was a range over the stove to take off all the air. So out of pocket, we had spent for stuff like that to be installed. In other words, that we focused on minor things that we thought that was a necessity for the house, and we didn't realize that it took more. And I'm still learning that when you buy a house, you don't know what the condition is in, and you don't know what's on paper. It never lines up the same as what somebody tells you. So I kind of learned that the hard way, but I was determined to make this all work and make it happen. A lot has been invested in the house. I'm not sure if I can just pass this around. That way you guys can see what it looked like from before, or if you guys already have that. I only have 2 copies.
I drove by it now.
But from what the house had looked at prior to what it does now, it's not a financial investment. It's more of an investment for our 3 kids and having a place here in Stevens Point. We love it up here, so again, we are trying to do our best to get in this house with our kids. The only thing that's keeping us from moving in completely is the bathroom, and it is. I didn't realize that there's special conditions into working on your bathroom up here, and I'm sure it is everywhere, but from my knowledge, this is where I found out that any type of plumbing, it's got to be done with a certified plumber. You can't just go and do what you want. It's understandable. It prevents accidents from happening. But as far as that, I would really appreciate the help and consideration on the amount that I have invested in this house time. I am kind of, thankfully I'm not financially in the hole. I'm able to keep up with all the bills and whatnot after doing so much with this house where we stand. But I guess that is all. Thank you.
Anybody have questions for Mr. Williams? All righty, thank you. Director, how much money are we looking at here?
I believe he's asking for the full amount, which is $5,000. I have to provide a match of $2,500.
All righty, I'll open it up to the commissioners. Comments, questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Jim?
Brian, can you fill us in on some dates and some monies and how this all evolved?
I would ask Mr. Cordes to provide that background information. I was not made aware of this until a few weeks ago and have not done that kind of research, so Mark's got a better idea of that.
The majority of the work took place this year, over the summer. The permit is still open, actually, on the property, so it has not been closed. And I think the total investment of the work that was done is about $65,000.
And when was Mr. Williams made aware of the Neighbor Helping Neighbor program?
About a month ago or so. Is that about right? He had originally, I think, approached Chris regarding a loan, but that wasn't going to work out for a variety of reasons. And I talked to him about a grant, and he submitted an application, and so I would say it was in the last month or so.
Grant application was made, when was that?
About a month ago. It was when we originally talked about the grant.
And the grant being the Neighbor Helping Neighbor.
Neighbor Helping
which is
Neighbor, correct.
and the-
Yeah, he had talked to Chris before that about the loan, but then had reached out to me regarding the Neighbor Helping Neighbor grant.
And the problem being the work's already done and it's limited to exterior work, is that what you're saying?
That's correct. So from the project that's been done, it appears most of the costs would be, had he applied before he started, it appears most of those costs would have been covered under the grant. I mean, once you get beyond $7,500, it's all out of pocket anyway. So, but it appears, he had brought in his contractor estimates and invoices, and it appears most of the work that was done would fall under the grant parameters had he applied prior to starting the work.
And did I understand the director saying that there's already been $2,500 dispersed?
We haven't dispersed anything. No, there's been nothing dispersed.
And so the application is for how much?
The application is for the full 5,000. That's the maximum you can get out of the grant is 5,000.
5,000, okay. You said 7,500 before.
Yeah, so the first $2,500 of the grant is money we give to the applicant for materials only, and there's no match required with that. To get the second $2,500, they have to match that dollar for dollar.
Okay.
So once you get a project cost of $7,500, anything beyond that is out of their pocket anyway,
All right.
but we match up to a maximum of $5,000.
Okay, I understand. So 5,000 is what he's requesting at
Yes,
this
that's
time. Which
correct.
would be the retroactive. And when was the work done on the exterior?
This summer,
This summer?
yeah.
And he had applied for loan from the department sometime this summer?
He did not apply, it's my understanding. You talked to Chris several times, is that accurate? Yes. Yeah, he had applied, he had talked to Chris, for whatever reason, was not eligible. I think it was an income standard. He was significantly under the income standard for a family of 5. And so he didn't qualify for the loan based on his income being extremely low. But he was well under our qualifications for the grant. Because it's a ceiling in the Neighbor Helping Neighbor. You have to be below that ceiling within the grant.
Right, okay, all right. And for some reason, that issue of the Neighbor Helping Neighbor never came up when he was discussing it with Chris earlier.
Well, by that time, originally, again, he had asked, but at that point, he had already taken out the second mortgage for the $60,000+ in work that had been done, and I think was looking for funds to, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but looking for funds to finish that project. I believe, it's my understanding, that he thought that money would be enough to complete the entire project. But as we're probably all well aware, projects now are usually running over budget. And when you get into a house that's 123 years old, you never know what you're going to get into.
Other questions, comments?
I have a question, Mark, you may, I was looking at the requirements for the program, and it said exterior work, or if there was an order on the property. Would this constitute an order if the plumbing was unusable? Would that be a way around the time
Yeah.
delay?
So a good question. Yes, that would require an order on the property, and that's the reason it can't move in, because it's not technically habitable. But that being said, I actually did pull the records. There were 8 outstanding orders. Some of them had been resolved and some of them had not, regarding the exterior of this property, and that is one of the criteria of the grant program as well. So since, I think, 2017 or 18, there have been 8 orders issued on this property. So this was a problematic property in the neighborhood that had been, you've seen the pictures before and after, so they'd done significant work on it.
Other questions, comments?
I want to say from the exterior, the house looks beautiful. I mean, you can tell there's new windows in there and other things, and if there's some way, to help him out of this situation, I guess maybe the soft part of me is saying, can we find something to make this happen? Because it does, when you start going into older houses and doing remodeling, there are some things that should have never been done. But I don't know, is there?
Other comments, questions? Motion's,
I agree with Gene 100%. What I'm struggling with is changing the spirit of the program, I think we might be opening ourselves up to a mess, and I don't want to do that to the community development department.
That was generally my concern. I mean, if we are going to allow retroactive applications, we need to have some clear guidelines on what is allowed within those retroactive applications. That could include, work done in the last 6 to 12 months. Not somebody who replaced siding and 3 or 4 years later finds out about the program and wants to pursue that. So, I mean, on the face of it, my recommendation is denial, but if you are to approve it, my strong recommendation would be to direct staff to provide clear and concise guidelines to be brought back to this body for consideration if we're going to start allowing retroactive applications.
Mr. Chairman?
Chair Price?
If you were to do, I'm sorry, somebody else was speaking?
Dave was
Hey, Chair Slice, as long as he's not finished the project yet, can't he put in a grant application for the unfinished portion of that work, and that would qualify?
The exterior work has already been completed, and the Neighbor Helping Neighbor grant is exclusively for exterior work and
Yeah,
windows.
all right, I understand. All right, thanks.
okay.
Obviously, your department has thought about what kind of criteria you'd be talking about if we were to direct you to do that. What's your thoughts process on criteria for retroactive?
The very preliminary is a time limit, and then, we haven't really talked about it outside of, okay, if we are going to allow this, there's got to be a certain time limit that we could retroactively go in it. We just want to be as objective as possible. I don't really think it's appropriate for applicants to be coming in front of this body to make their case on a regular basis. If we have those clear guidelines, then that means that staff can review those and approve or deny those types of requests as they come forward. I don't know. Other than the timing, that's really the only thing I've thought of. Outside of that, I'm always open for recommendations and ideas from outside groups in this body as well.
Another question, is there other programs that he could avail himself of for the $5,000 that would either be a deferred loan, a grant program, or one other thought would be to expand the Neighbor Helping Neighbor to do some essential interior work the bathroom would qualify for something along that line, because obviously, as he just said, the house is uninhabitable as it stands now. So those are two questions. Is there another program that he could qualify for?
Not within the department.
CAP?
Possibly within CAP. Market shaking said no.
No. Okay, so you've researched other options. All right, that makes sense. I'm glad you did. Then the other option would be to expand the program, as opposed to making it retroactive, expand the program such that work that would be absolutely necessary to make the property habitable, decent, safe, and sanitary, something along those lines, and not make it retroactive. Is that an option?
That is an option. It's something that we've looked at. I mean, the other major grant that we have is the multifamily conversion grant. However, this has been a single-family home, and that one is really more targeted towards former boarding properties. And we have seen some success in that the last few years. But that's the other grant that exists, and this specific property doesn't qualify for that grant. So if we would want to open up the Neighbor Helping Neighbor grant program, that's something we could do. We could also look at a separate program that would allow, some type of grant for income-eligible individuals to make properties habitable. Yeah, but right now it's something we can do. I mean, it's definitely we're just looking for a direction from the redevelopment authority at that point.
I think it's unusual to do the siding and the windows before you do the bathroom, because you'd want something in there while you're working on it, but.
Well, I think if you read the letter, they said they kind of discovered it after the fact, after they
Well,
did
said
the
it's
other
all
work.
gutted, yeah.
Yeah, but you're right, that's a major function of the house, so
Yeah.
I think that would be one of the first things you'd work on.
Which direction would you like to go?
It seems to me we've established a housing task force. We've made it a goal to get people into housing. If this person doesn't qualify, who will? We will be known by what we do for the least of us. I think we have to do this. I think we maybe need to modify the program, put a monthly, a 3-month time limit, limited to exterior and something like plumbing. You could live without electricity, you can't live without plumbing. Maybe but I think this is everything we're trying to do. Is get people into housing. I'm sorry.
Other comments, motions?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve this request and we direct staff to develop alternatives for us to consider in the future, either to consider it on a retroactive basis on a very limited timeline, because we don't want to open it up to 5 years ago, somebody saying, well, I put siding in my house 20-some years ago. Now, I don't want to come in here and make an application. On the other hand, or expand the program to allow it to be used for, I will say, some of the basic necessities of a house on the interior, whether that be if the wiring's in terrible, terrible shape. I'm talking about just leave it at that. That'd be my motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Gene seconds. Discussion. Jim, Dave.
I agree with what John, the motion, I guess the direction I'd like to see staff go is with, don't do retroactive, but open the parameters of the program instead of doing it retroactive. Because I think retroactive is going to cause us more problems than, I think opening it up to things on the inside of the house that are necessary, I think is a much better way to go.
Yeah, staff has that option to do that, and I would encourage them to go in the same direction.
I agree. Yeah. Especially the habitable part, to meet habitable requirements.
Right.
Have a limit, like 90 days or something like that, so if it's under construction currently, that would limit it even more, so. But that can go. Any other comments? Director will take the roll.
Schleiss.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Kneebone.
Aye.
Cooper.
Aye.
Kemeter.
Here, aye.
Laddick.
Aye.
Carrot.
Aye.
7-0.
Motion passes. Agenda item number 4, presentation by Baker Tilly and Redevelopment Authority 2022 audit findings. Director?
Justin and Taylor from Baker Tilly are on Zoom to present the audit findings from 2022. I'll turn it over to them, but I think we're continue to be in pretty good shape, so.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you for having us. My name is Justin Hoagland, and I'm a senior manager with Baker Tilly, and I'm filling in for Carla Gogan, who is the partner on this engagement, but she unfortunately had a prior obligation out of state, so wasn't able to make this call, but she does send her best. And so while I was not on this engagement in 2022, I will be the manager on the City of Stevens Point audits, which includes the RDA going forward. So again, thanks for having us and nice to meet all of you. I also have Taylor from Baker Tilly with me, and she's the in-charge accountant for this audit, so would know more of the details regarding the 2022 audit if you do have any questions. But I just wanted to give a high-level overview of the 2022 RDA audit and go over a couple of the audit reports that we issued. So starting with the financial statements themselves, which begin, I believe, on page 25 of your agenda packet. And the first thing, if you look at Roman numeral number 1 on the financial statements, this contains our opinion, and we gave the RDA financial statement a clean or unmodified opinion. This is the highest assurance that you can receive, and it is what you have received in the past. It is what you should expect and hope to receive each year. So all good on that front. Next, going down to page Roman numeral 4 is the management discussions and analysis. If you haven't, we definitely recommend that you read this, as it provides a high-level overview of the RDA's financial results for the year. And then moving down even farther in the financials, on page 1, you will find the balance sheet. So the RDA does have a strong asset position, comprised primarily of cash and investments, which total over $3.7 million. And then capital assets and loans and notes receivable make up the remaining pieces. The RDA does have very minimal liabilities, which results in a strong net position or equity of almost $8 million, which you will see on the bottom of that page 1. Next, just moving on to the income statement side, which is on page 2 of the financials, you will see that there was a net loss of about $352,000 for the year, and a large chunk of this related to the unrealized loss on investments for 2022, and this was purely due to the market conditions, which we saw at a lot of our clients, depending on what types of assets or securities they were invested in. The remaining loss consisted of a loss on the disposal of land for about $45,000, which is common for the RDA, as well as the annual depreciation expense of about $107,000 related to the depreciation of your capital assets. So kind of going away from the financial statements, next I wanted to go over the required communication to those charged with governance, which starts, again, I think it's on page 51 of your agenda packet.
Excuse me.
And then, so if you want, or go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, please. On the investment income loss, I believe I was told once upon a time that municipalities are not to invest in speculative investments. Could you comment on that, please?
Yep, for sure. Yeah, there's state statutes and everything out there related to what municipalities can invest in. It's as you said, speculative or risky investments. You can't go and invest in Apple or Google. You can't invest in stocks. So there's very specific things that you can invest in. But the accounting standards say that we have to, market to market your securities at the end of the year. And so again, not being part of the 2022 audit, you must have some securities that are invested in things such as, either they could be treasuries, something like that. That again, those can go up and down. It's not just like you invested in a checking or savings account or a CD that has that kind of no loss effect. You must have some money in different securities that can go down in value depending on the market. However, a lot of those securities, again, they're low risk in that this is more just like an accounting adjustment that we have to make, again, marking it to market. But if you do hold those investments throughout their entire life, you will see this go back up, because again, a lot of them are just based off of an interest rate or a loan that you have, like a corporate bond or something like that. So again, it's nothing to be super concerned about. It's just the type of securities that you are invested in. Again, it's not like a stock that you're going to for sure lose money on, if that makes sense.
So we actually hold the bonds. We're not invested in some sort of market fund. We actually hold the bonds. And if we hold them to maturity, then they are worth their face value plus whatever posted interest is on them. Correct.
Yeah. The mark-to-market probably happened because, interest rates went up so high, and you probably were holding these bonds that might have been valued at a lower interest rate, so they their market value weren't as high because people could go out and get a higher interest rate in a different security. So again, like if you just hold them, which I'm assuming you will do, that loss will kind of be reversed in later years.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, nope, that's a great question. So again, kind of going away from the financial statements onto the required communication of those charged with governance. Again, looking at page 55 of your agenda packet, you will note that we did have 2 material weaknesses for the 2022 audit. The first one relates to internal control over financial reporting. So this is consistent with prior years, and it's comes up because we prepare the RDA's financial statements on your behalf. Again, this is consistent with prior years, and we have this point in probably 80 to 90% of our clients because we do prepare the financial statements for the vast majority of our clients. The second point was new for 2022, and that related to adjusting journal entries not being reviewed and approved by someone other than the preparer. And it's my understanding that this was due to Corey's medical leave in 2022, and so we definitely expect this point to go away for 2023 because it was not a point prior to 2022. The rest of this document, all the language is very consistent with prior years, so nothing else to highlight on that. Those are really the high-level items that I wanted to go over related to the 2022 audit. Do you have any additional questions for us or things that you think we should know about for the 2023 audit? As we begin to prepare for that, we are going to do our preliminary audit for Stevens Point on November 27th. So again, any questions or things that you think we should know about?
Commissioners? Doesn't appear to be any.
Okay.
Anything you wish to add?
I don't have anything else. Again, nice to meet you all for the first time, and thank you. Feel free to reach out with questions at any time during the year.
Do we need a vote to put it on file or just put it on file? What do you think?
Yeah, we should take a vote to place this on file since this is your financial
Motion to
audit.
accept the report, place on file. Gene?
I move that we place the audited report on file.
I'll second
Mary?
that.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving right along. Presentation of the 2024 RDA budget. Director.
Okay, on pages 73, 74, and 75, you do see the proposed 2024 Redevelopment Authority budget. We have historically just utilized Fund 208. For 2024, we did establish Fund 253, so Fund 208 is the one that you've seen in previous years. Really no significant changes there with the exception of the Housing Modernization Loan Program. You will see a reduction from 208 of 100,000 and then switching over to Fund 253. I did keep the program budgets pretty consistent where they were for 2023. I think it's important to note that the funds in Fund 208 come from essentially the city's fund balance annually, so that is replenished from fund balance kind of as the city council's budget to the redevelopment authority for your programming. So I don't have any additional comments. This does go before the common council on next week Monday for adoption of the 2024 budget. So if there are changes that you'd like to see made, now would be the time to make those changes. Otherwise, we can make budget adjustments throughout the year as needed. In the 4 years that I've been Redevelopment Authority Director, we've never had to make any budget adjustments for 2024.
Commissioners, comments, questions? Motion to accept the proposed budget and place.
Quick question first. We had approved some contribution for administrative costs for your department for one of your staff people. I'm looking for where that is in here.
That would not come out of 208 or 253. That is a transfer, I believe, from Housing Trust Fund.
Okay, so that's,
I will verify that.
but that's not showing up on either of these pages. Is that-
Nope.
Okay, that's why I couldn't find it. That's good.
Yeah, that's a $25,000 transfer that pays for a portion of my salary.
Shouldn't that be part of our budget that we review, though?
I can talk to Corey about that. I believe it comes out of the Housing Trust Fund, but I will verify that and follow up with the redevelopment authority.
Let's-
You should see
let's
all the
include
funds
that.
that we have that are involved with the
Sure,
RDA.
and that was for 3 years, as I recall?
Correct.
Yeah, let's include that in the motion then, so that's covered. Okay. I'll move that we approve the budget as proposed with the addition of the salary contribution from the department.
Is there a second? Second, Gene, discussion? Director will take the roll.
Schleiss.
Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Kneebone.
Aye.
Cooper.
Aye.
Kemeter.
Aye.
Barrett.
Aye.
6-0.
Motion carries. Item number 6, presentation on RDA programs and utilization.
So in your agenda packet from Chris Claysmith is, I asked him to put together essentially through 2023 where our grant programs were at in utilization. This was always a point of interest for this body for several years. As we created our programs, we didn't have a lot of utilization of those programs. I mean, look at the Neighbor Helping Neighborhood 3, 3, 2, 3. In 2023, we've had 11 awarded approvals, 12 after today, for the about $53,000 worth of grant monies. The multifamily rental conversion, we didn't have any for 2023, but we do have 2 in the pipeline right now for 2024, so I do expect that program to be utilized more in 2024. And then new this year, as mentioned, is the Housing Modernization Loan Program. 4 awarded loans, and we have been able to manage those loans in-house, and that's been a really successful program itself. And so residential demolition is the other one. We've never had anyone take us up on that specific program. It's nice to have in the event that you do have somebody who wants to buy a home, tear it down, and build a new home as a program, but I've never had anyone that's actually used that program in the few years that I've been with the city. So we are seeing an increase in our programming and the grants and loans that are going out, which of course we're really pleased with. We'll continue to market those programs. In 2024, you will see on the side of a city bus, as an example, we're going to start doing some advertising there and just trying to find other means to reach out and advertise these specific programs. So more than happy to answer any questions you might have, but this is more for an update for you folks.
Where were we at? Last meeting, we discussed having a mailing to all properties that qualified. Where are we at with that program?
We did pull the assessment data that had qualified properties. We are going through possibly updating some of that information. With the revaluation, the average home value went up about $20,000, so we've got to re-pull that data and send it out. But I think after the first of the year, we would do something like that. It should also be noted that anytime we send a notice of violation, we do include information on our grant programs for those homes that are well, just in general, but we really do try to target those in specific neighborhoods that are in need of rehab or repair to receive those programs. And then whenever Mark takes calls on that, of course, when you get a letter from the city, typically they'll call Mark and ask why they got a letter. Mark is very good at directing them to the various programs and helping them through the application process.
Well, I think we definitely should get a direct mailing out at least once, if not twice a year. That's the only way we're going to get our programs exposed and potentially utilized. And there may be all kinds of people out there saying, oh, we didn't know about that, including the gentleman we had here today. But that won't affect him because he just bought the house. But I would personally like to see something out right after the first of the year And let's go that way so we can see what's coming up with the next construction season. Any questions or discussion on the programs? Alrighty, we really don't need a motion on that. Then item number 7, discussion and update on possible convention center, workforce development center at 1101 Centerpoint Drive. Director.
So included in this agenda packet is actually a memo that I had written to the city's finance committee in October. Great Lakes Student Loans was the tenant of the former Dunham Stage Shop building. It's a remnant piece from the mall. The city has partnered with Mid-State Technical College and the Stevens Point Area Convention Visitors Bureau to look at whether that building is worthwhile to convert into a convention style and workforce development center that Mid-State would likely operate and run. And one of the first steps that we had to take was essentially finding somebody who has expertise in that specific field and having them do a full economic analysis, needs analysis, and then building analysis on that if that building would work for that specific use. When the city condemned the mall in 2010, 2011, 2012, we took ownership, the Community Development Authority took ownership in 2012, 2013 is when the Community Development Authority dissolved, and that was split into the Housing Authority and the Redevelopment Authority, which is what we have now. So technically, the Redevelopment Authority is the owner of the property, although if you look at the actual ownership at Centerpoint Mall Corporation, I don't understand it fully as to why that is. I've been told it was something for tax liability for the previous owner. I don't pretend to get into the specific details of that. But I wanted to really bring you folks up to speed on it. Not only do you technically own 1101 Centerpoint Drive, you also own Lot 16 and the surrounding parking lot, similar to like Shopco. So as we move forward and as that is presented, and the analysis on that, we'll definitely keep you folks in the loop. This is more for information at this point, and I'm more than happy to answer any other questions you might have. We did have a kickoff meeting yesterday, and the Hunden Partners, which is the development consultant that the 3 entities have hired, will be here at the end of the month to do a full walkthrough of the downtown of this specific property, and they'll provide a full report on whether or not this would be an economically feasible thing for the city to pursue in partnership with Mid-State and the Convention Visitors Bureau.
Questions of the director. Gene?
Is there sufficient parking for this to become an arena?
That's something that Hunden is going to be able to look at and consider, what we need for parking. I think, quite frankly, as we have conversations on redevelopment of downtown and of the Shopco property specifically, which we'll get into shortly, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't mention yet again the conversation surrounding a possible parking structure. So,
Other questions? All righty, I don't think we need a motion on this. Keep us informed.
do you have an audience member?
Oh, I'm
that's
sorry.
interested?
I have a comment on just...
Your name, please?
Oh, Andrea Olson, 410 Franklin Street, Stevens Point. And I have a comment on the study and what Point is looking for out of the study, because tourism was the focus for this. Tourism, what attracts people to a conference center or a convention center? The looks, the amenities, the views. If you do a search in Wisconsin and read more into the packet, you're going to be looking at these beautiful newer buildings that are not a single story with buildings around them. You are looking at these convention centers with views of the river. And just because this building is available, should it really be utilized as an anchor? Because it's only going to be having people, 150 to 300 people there randomly. We have a pharmacy desert downtown. We also have a food desert downtown for the most part. What other uses could be used for this building? This wasn't ever put out for requests for proposals or to the community. And if you look at the past studies for downtown and what was suggested, And what the people say at so many different meetings is, we want a grocery store downtown. The nearest pharmacies are the 2 Walgreens pharmacies. So maybe when looking at this, the company that's being hired shouldn't only be looking at this building, because we all know that justifying a parking garage very easily happens when you're going to have 150 to 300 more cars. Right now, parking at the apartment complex is $70 per month, and people can't even get their own parking spots there right now. They're parking on the streets. So maybe the city should be also asking Hunden Partners to maybe consider looking at some of the river property, since the city also owns that, or maybe the city shouldn't be the ones creating the convention center, maybe with Hunden, who also does things for hotels that have convention centers and all these amenities. Maybe that also should be considered, and use the room tax for grants for putting on these other types of events, because right now there's still a request out there for people to submit ideas for grants for the current room tax that's available. But I would just hope that the city is also asking them to consider other locations and not just this building, because it is available in there. Because when you're looking at a water view versus looking at other buildings just around it, it's going to take raising this building to make it be attractive enough to compete against some of these other buildings out there with better views and better amenities.
Thank you. We'll forward your comments. All righty. Any other questions, comments? Number 8, Executive Director's Report. Director.
The only major thing I have is, actually a few things. So not necessarily relevant to this body right now, but the city did issue a request for proposal for the former Edgewater Manor site that was sent out yesterday. They have 60 days to submit a response to that request for proposals to my office. I believe that's January 12th is the due date. After that point, the city will be looking at other options for that specific property. We continue to utilize Stantec as our brownfield remediation group. We've done a number of testing, especially around the Shopco parking lot and inside the Shopco building, for what environmental contamination we might run into as part of the redevelopment of that specific site. And then we will be likely listing some of the redevelopment authority properties on Strong's and Church in the coming weeks with the realtor. There's been an ask to put the signage back up on the property. At some point, I think we've been advertising those specific properties on the city's website with no success. And so I think it's time for us to get a realtor involved to list those specific vacant properties and at least market them to potential users. Of course, anything, we wouldn't sell property unless they would have a purpose to be redeveloped, a home or a duplex or a threeplex, something of that nature, especially like the one on Second and the one on Strong's End, Brawley, so the former church property. We did just re-up the Church Street property that's just north of South Point Restaurant. Pete Harris took that over after Ward Wolf's passing, so we did just re-up that contract with Pete recently. So I'm more than happy to answer any other questions that the Redevelopment Authority may have.
Jim?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to catch the director off guard here. Maybe you want to give him a brief update on the Community Land Trust.
Yes, that's a really good point. My apologies. The Community Land Trust, you folks might recall, you are funding a consultant as part of Redevelopment Authority funds for us looking into Community Land Trust. The consultant has been working really diligently with city staff and some local realtors to look at need within the Stevens Point, greater Stevens Point market. And we are getting some information. We're looking at some building costs. If you start this program and you choose to build, what is it going to take? What's it going to cost? So that group meets monthly. In fact, they had a meeting today that's probably still going on. It started at 2 o'clock. Chris Claysmith is at that meeting instead of here. for that specific reason. So we're hopeful in the coming months to have something from the consultant and what a community land trust in Stevens Point could look like. As you might recall, we're partnering with CAP Services on that specific program. So.
And as part of that, I would hope we'd get a schedule of when funds will be coming available, because a lot of those TIF districts don't close for a lot of years, so that funding for that program may be way off in the future.
Yep, that's a really good point, that the TIFs, we do intend to do what's called the Housing Affordability Extension. That allows us to take 100% of the increment from an additional year at the end of the statutory life for the TIF districts and put that towards affordable housing. In this specific case, we already have the infrastructure set up via the Housing Trust Fund to take those funds and then implement those into the community. So I think 2032 and 2033, 5, 6, and 7 close shortly, and then at the end of 2027, 8 closes, and 9 is nearing the end of its statutory life as well, right around the end of this decade. So a few years out, but we are preparing for those extensions, and you'll see some pretty significant funds be transferred in the Housing Trust Fund for use of affordable housing within the city of Stevens Point.
Other questions for the director? If not, we'll enter into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.85, paren 1, paren E, for deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session related to the following. A, discussion and update on possible redevelopment or development, agreement for property located within tax increment district number 10, including a municipal parking lot number 8, RDO properties adjacent to those other numbers as shown. And B, discussion and update on possible development agreement for property located within tax increment finance district number 10, Shopko parking lot. A motion and a second. We'll need to go adjourn into closed session.
So moved.
A motion and Gene to adjourn into closed session. We will not come out of closed session to take any type of an action, and we will adjourn. Aye.
Gardner.
Aye.
Kneebone.
Aye.
Cooper.
Aye.
Kemeter.
Aye.
Barrett.
Aye.
Now we're in closed session. Thank you.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.